Over its 16 chapters, The Mandalorian has given us some amazing and quotable characters.
I have spoken.
So today I'm going to stop and rank all 16 Mandalorian heroes and allies from the worst to the best. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and Star Wars way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your ranking of the Mandalorian heroes and allies. My list isn't the right list, it's just my list, and I would love to see yours.
This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
And to be clear, this show is packed with amazing characters, so just because someone is low on the list doesn't mean that I don't love them, but it's a ranking and...
there can be only one.
So let's get started. In last place, Frog Lady. Honestly, I wouldn't have chosen to include her on this list, except they thought she was such an important ally that they decided to give her her own poster.
Why?
Since we can't understand her, she's not really likable. Her one thing is that she really wants to keep her eggs safe, but she's totally oblivious to the fact that Grogu is eating them and she keeps leaving her eggs in the other room. Her one contribution is playing babysitter to Grogu. Cool. And for that, she got her own poster. Number 15, Peli Motto, or Mando's go-to babysitter on Tatooine, and I guess she does some other stuff here and there. At least this character actually has a personality and character traits that are distinguishable, though I don't think she really fits on this show. Whenever she shows up, I feel like she's acting in an episode of Cheers, not The Mandalorian.
Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name.
I mean, she's fine. I just kind of assumed she'd be a one-off character, and then she just kind of kept coming back. Next up, Mythrol, or the fish guy from the opening sequence of the show, who ended up coming back in season 2 as a bit of an ally. Much like Peli Motto, he's kind of fun, but he has one of these personalities and cracks jokes like he's on a different show. I enjoy his presence a little bit more than Peli Motto's, but every time he's on screen, he just reminds me of a character from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Number 13, Fennec Shand. Now, don't get me wrong, I think that this is a very cool character. She's just been dramatically underutilized. She first shows up in The Gunslinger, where she's the secondary guest star to the title Gunslinger, who's the most boring character on the entire show.
Not a great plan.
Then she returns as Boba Fett's servant. I'm totally on board to see more of this character, learn more about her, give her a real character arc where she gets to be more front and center. But thus far, there just hasn't been a lot there. Then we have the Armorer, another solid character, but one that exists to deliver exposition and support our lead. The primary thing she does on the show is inform us about Mando, their version of the Mandalorian creed, and send him off on quests.
This is the way.
And of course, she gets an awesome throwdown scene in Chapter 8. She's a great spice character. She improves scenes when she shows up, but she's not one that necessarily ever takes the lead in and of herself. At number 11, Cobb Vanth. Now, this was a cool guest star. Certainly the hook here was seeing a guy in Boba Fett's armor, but beyond that, he was just a refreshing addition to this show. So many of the people that Mando teams up with are looking to double cross him. They'll not follow through on their word. And then you have Cobb, who has this cool set of armor. He's using it for a good cause, and he's totally willing to give it over to Mando if Mando helps him. No strings attached, no double crosses, no cheating on the words. He's just a good guy. He's not a
scruffy-looking nerf herder.
He was perfectly willing to hand over this very valuable and useful armor to Mando if Mando would help him. He wasn't a
Scoundrel.
He's legitimately trying to be the good marshal of this town and serve his people. It also helps that Timothy Oliphant is so good at playing cowboys. Now, he doesn't necessarily get a big arc or the flashiest moments, but I sure hope that he shows up in the book of Boba Fett. Bringing us into the top 10 is Cara Dune. Now, I've been a fan of Gina Carano for over 10 years, since she was Crush on American Gladiators. What makes the character interesting to me is that she represents the former rebel soldier who's lost their purpose. And throughout her journey on this show, she starts to discover what she's supposed to be doing now. Along the way, she's also one of Mando's equals when it comes to hand-to-hand combat. And there's some nice little moments where you start to get her backstory and the anger that she still holds towards the Empire and anyone associated with the Imperials, including Kuiil. While they have given her a backstory and a new job, they haven't necessarily given her a lot of depth yet, or those big payoff moments that I think I need to have them higher up on the list. Number 9, Grieg Karga, the leader of the bounty hunters that sends Mando off on the bounty that leads to the show taking place. At the beginning, he only really cares about the money and the mission, and he doesn't care about the ethics of any of it. And throughout the course of the show and interacting with Grogu, he has that transformation that's interesting. Really, there's two things that kind of make me put him over Cara Dune. First one is that he really gets that arc of where he was at the beginning is very different from where he's at in season 2. And you have an episode, a moment where he changes when he realizes this child really matters. Second one, he gets some great lines throughout the show.
Hey, let's make the baby do the magic hand thing. Come on, baby. Do the magic hand thing.
So it's always nice when he shows up in an episode and to see that journey that he's on. Next up, Ahsoka Tano. Now, don't get me wrong, she's awesome. Rosario Dawson did a great job in the episode, and I'm very excited to see what they do with her when she gets her own show. But I'm not ranking her based off of her past or her potential, but her usage on this show in her one episode. Of course, it's awesome to see her just tearing guys up with her 2 lightsabers. But on the show, she's primarily just used as a guide who gives us some really important information about our little friend,
Grogu.
And of course, she sets up her own show. It's all cool stuff. I enjoyed all of it, but we didn't get to know a lot about her. Number 7, Bo-Katan and Friends. This is a fun one because she's only an ally in so much as it benefits her. She sees Mando as someone that could potentially help her on her quest to reclaim Mandalore, but she doesn't care about his journey, his mission at all. When it helps her, she helps him. She's also used really nicely to kind of add some tension into certain sequences because she's such a different version of a Mandalorian from Mando, who's basically in a cult, and she's kind of deconstructing some of his beliefs through all of this. Likewise, when she sees Boba Fett, she resents the fact that he's in the armor and that he's a clone. And then when you get into that final episode, and Mando's the one that ends up with the Darksaber, you can just feel the tension rising, growing. So she's used to help Mando on his journey, but she adds just as much conflict as she does resolve some of it. So because of all that, she's very interesting, though at times not particularly likable. Then we have Boba Fett. This one is a little bit tricky for me because Chapter 14 was the payoff of decades of me waiting to see Boba Fett finally live up to his reputation. And in that episode, he got to be awesome. So sorting through my nerd freakout versus actual depth is a little bit impossible. But of the non-cameo fan service allies, this is the one that blew my mind the most. He got to be awesome, just destroy a bunch of guys. But beyond that, we got to know kind of his value set, his creed, that he follows through on things, and that he has a mission and something that he's working towards. All of it very cool stuff that lived up to decades worth of anticipation. In 5th place, IG-11, one of the most important characters on the show when it comes to Mando's transformation. In the very first episode, IG-11 is about to kill little baby Yoda, and Mando has to choose to protect the child over being a bounty hunter. And then as we get to Chapter 7 and IG-11 has been changed by Kuiil, this is part of Mando breaking past his previous prejudice and being able to trust a droid, and is able, in fact, to see a droid as a person that he doesn't want to lose. IG-11 in and of himself, though, gets this interesting redemptive arc that's a little bit like the T-800 in Terminator 2, where he was originally sent to kill the child, and then he becomes the child's protector and a sacrificial hero.
You have suffered damage to your central processing unit. You mean my brain? That was a joke.
It's surprisingly powerful considering it's all about a droid, and he doesn't really get the most screen time, but one that gets some very powerful moments and important moments. Next up, Grogu, one of the cutest and most memeable characters of the decade. He's the driving force of the entire show without having a character arc really or having anything to say. Something in his design is just so fun, so memorable, and so shareable. He's a meme and a mystery and instantly intriguing. I struggle to put him any higher on this list because he doesn't really have a bunch of depth to him. He just has a backstory and intrigue, but it's remarkable how endearing he was instantaneously. Real quick before I give you my top 3, remember to share your ranking down below in the comments section. What do you think about all the characters? My list isn't the right list, it's just my list, and I would love to see yours. Also know I've done a ton of content about The Mandalorian. A couple days ago, I ranked each episode of the show, and I did reviews of every episode of season 2. You can check that out right up here in this playlist. In third place, Migs Mayfield. At first, he was a mildly amusing character with some fun stunt casting, but through some amazing writing in chapter 15, he turned out to be one of the best characters on the show. He started out as this outlaw scoundrel, and then he turned into this broken veteran. He's jaded by the war and everything that he saw, and it gives him this distinct worldview that's the polar opposite of Mando. So when the two of them interact, you can see Mando start to break down his belief systems, but likewise, you can see Mayfield have a change inside of him as he sees someone that truly believes in something. He doesn't get the flashiest moments, he doesn't get the biggest episode, but he might just get some of the best writing. Our runner-up is Kuiil, the wise old man who delivers a non-cynical and nuanced perspective of this complex world while being incredibly quotable.
I have spoken.
Whereas everyone else is working through their prejudices and have these extreme worldviews, he's past all of that and just wants to do what's right. And while he might be a former Imperial, he's also one of the most decent characters on the show. Through his actions, he starts to put Mando on this journey of fatherhood. Through his work on IG-11, he redeems this killer droid, as well as, by its ramifications, starts to change Mando himself. So once again, a character that's not the most obvious person to be awesome, but he's just such a great and important piece to this particular show. An honorable mention will go to Luke Skywalker. Since he only appeared in the one sequence, this is more of a cameo than a recurring hero or ally, but of course he did help our heroes out. And for me, it was absolutely fantastic. I've been waiting to see Luke Skywalker show up one more time to just destroy dudes my entire life, and we finally got it. It fits with the timeline, it fits with the plot of the season, so for me, it absolutely worked and was a great payoff to a fantastic season. But coming in first place is, of course, the Mandalorian himself, Din Djarin. In a lot of ways, he's this ruthless bounty hunter at the beginning of the show, and in other ways, he's kind of naive, and throughout the course of this show, with Grogu entering into his life, it breaks down all of his belief systems, and then he's also someone that can just kill people in cold blood without even stopping to think about it. And then he becomes the father to this child as he sees himself in Grogu and he realizes his responsibility. But when you piece it all together, you realize that they were pacing out this arc that he was on through the people that he meets, the choices that he has to make. He's become a better version of himself because his care for Grogu is more important than all of that, all leading up to this final sequence where he has to finally let go and trust the child that it's so early on he was just trying to pass off to anyone that he could, and now it's all that he cares about is this child and doing what's right by him. It's a powerful, powerful arc and an awesome character, and I can't wait to see what the further journeys of Mando will be. So he comes in at number 1. If you enjoyed this video, I've got more like it right over there in that playlist. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV too much.